So now that the dust is settled from this past week, I wanted to take a look back at the reception that Microsoft got for the Developer Direct and why I think they've finally figured it out. It's taken a long time. I mean, we're talking like half a decade or so since they attempted to come up with their own showcase event that they could basically use to send information out there to all of the fans and gamers. But now I think they have something, and I think this is good for basically all of us going forward. Guys, if you enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you're new to the Spawn Wave Plus channel. First off, let's head over here to the News Xbox website for the Developer Direct, and we can just kind of scroll through very quickly everything that was announced here. And from what I've seen, the overall reception is extremely positive. That being said, I think the biggest thing to take away from this, even if there weren't any games necessarily that you were excited for, although I think they had a nice mix, but I can understand maybe you're looking for Starfield or Fable or Perfect Dark, or maybe Hi-Fi Rush just didn't connect with you. I think the format that they presented here is good because it's what Microsoft needs. I looked back at their Inside Xbox. Some people may not remember this, but back in 2018, so a little less than 5 years ago, when they started to attempt to have one Inside Xbox every single month. Yeah, that was something that they laid out, like, hey, every month we're going to do an Inside Xbox. We're going to communicate information directly to you at home. And we'll do it in this live studio pre-recorded format, right, where people will be on stage talking to the camera. That's very formal and dressed up and all of these things. But now they've gone back to the drawing board and come up with this Developer Direct. And it makes a lot of sense to go this route based on the success we've seen from Sony and Nintendo. Nintendo started doing this a long time ago with their Nintendo Direct. And yes, it has taken the industry a little while to kind of catch on to what Nintendo basically came up with then, and have worked to refine it for years and years and years now. So Microsoft kicking things off with their Developer Direct, I think they did pretty good for their first outing. And the reason I like this is because, well, one, they can essentially do a Developer Direct whenever they feel like it. Like, they don't have to wait for an E3. They don't have to wait for maybe an XO, which is like their big community-driven event. They can say, hey, you know what? We have 4 or 5 games to show off. Let's announce a Developer Direct. And I like the idea of going directly to the developers. And yeah, that's what it says in the title, but you don't need a stage presence or a host for every single show you do. For a community-driven event, like an XO event, it makes sense to have someone who has stage presence, who is good on camera and can talk. But when you are just trying to hear about the game, which is what gamers really care about, right? Like, you're tuning in to see new titles and new experiences that will probably be coming up relatively soon. And for the most part, outside of Forza, Microsoft managed to at least give us some release dates and even did a shadow drop, which was great. So going to each studio and almost even getting to know some of the people behind these games in a fairly quick format. It was just over 40 minutes. They showed off 5 different games, so it was less than 10 minutes for each section, technically, if you just kind of divide it up there. And it flowed pretty well. They tried to keep it informal with different camera shots of them being recorded. Basically, throughout the entire Developer Direct, it felt like they were still setting up for the Developer Direct. And they're like, well, we don't have enough time. Let's just go ahead and start filming this now. So formal, but also informal, right? Trying to keep it grounded in reality. But going through the games they showcased here, they could probably do one of these Developer Directs every quarter. Like, that's what Microsoft is trying to come up with, is a rapid release schedule, a nice cadence of releases dropping consistently in the Game Pass from first-party studios, because they own those games. They don't necessarily have to come up with third-party deals then that may expire down the road, as we have seen games not only cycle into Game Pass, but also cycle out. And having a game like Hi-Fi Rush, which, by the way, is a phenomenal game. This is a title which I've been playing, and I think I'm a little more than halfway through the game now, but I've been playing it, and I keep going, you know what, this feels like a game that I would have expected out of Sony Japan Studios, when they were around, but that's kind of what it feels like. It has that creativity behind it. It certainly stands out from what you would expect to see at Microsoft Showcase. You expect to see racing games, first-person shooters, that sort of thing, and then, oh wait, here's this action, like rhythm-based game that has this very unique cel-shaded look to it and a lot of personality. So I like that idea, and you know what? I think Microsoft should really be looking to invest and ask what else Tango Gameworks has up their sleeve. They'll probably make an Evil Within game, I'm sure, but what else do you guys have? What other ideas do you have kind of setting up in that studio? Because we'd like to get behind them, especially if they're on this smaller scale. I think Microsoft should look to each studio and go, okay, we have your big title that's going to be in development for 5, 6, 7 years. What smaller projects do you have, like a Pentiment or a Hi-Fi Rush, that maybe will take half the time and we could show up with a $30 price tag and even just shadow drop it during the presentation right into Game Pass? There's a lot of excitement when the game is just there, available. Like, it certainly caught everyone's attention. Oh yeah, and you'll be able to download it in a couple of hours on Game Pass. That really, I think, took the presentation to the next level, and in some ways made people kind of overlook the fact that Forza did not get a release date. But then they started talking about, oh, we'll be at E3. There's a Starfield presentation coming up. This is a good way for Microsoft to keep in the news and keep people informed with their games without having to do these long, drawn-out presentations. You know those Inside Xbox episodes, if you look at the streaming archives, were like an hour and a half to 2 hours each. And this had like 2 or 3 times as much information, and it was in less than half that time. And now, really getting into this newer generation, I like the idea of each major platform holder having their own direct-like showcase. The State of Plays, the Nintendo Directs, and the Developer Directs. It's just a lot easier, I think, to digest, set things up, and look forward to it. And the fact that these can drop throughout the year and they're not reliant on an event like E3 means that, yeah, we can have all kinds of cool games getting revealed pretty consistently. And yeah, it might leave room for some shadow drops here and there. But I'm excited that Microsoft seems to have figured it out. So now I'm curious what's up next with Starfield and, of course, rolling into to E3. But let me know what you guys think about the Developer Direct. Overall, the reception online was pretty positive, but let me know your opinion on the showcase that they put forth here and maybe how they can improve it or what you really enjoyed about it. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.